don't know. Where's the book?
Hello and welcome to Back to A Journey to King's Cross, a Harry Potter book podcast. We just finished Chapter 9, The Dark Mark.
If he sounds depressed, it's because we literally just did part of the intro. And then we're like, sorry about the furnace. And then we're like, oh no, it's muted.
Yeah, we went through all of this hard work just to accidentally mute it.
Sorry about the furnace, because it's really cold here in Michigan as we're recording this.
And so we can go back to the artwork.
It's really, terrifying shots of 3 people up in the air above burning tents. It's really, really disgusting and horrible.
Getting some definite KKK vibes. Originally, we were going with the idea of the Nazis and everything.
Well, he was, but it's not quite. This kind of behavior is more.
It's kind of like
KKK.
the Death Eater. It's kind of like the Death Eaters are KKK, but then Voldemort is Hitler.
And then when Hitler comes into power and everything, the KKK gets a nice little upgrade in terms
to the Nazi and the SS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can call that an upgrade.
Quote.
Only sense of an upgrade is more evil. Anyway, we did briefly mention the fact that Rowling does in fact not realize the connections that she accidentally made in terms of the creation of the Death Eaters and stuff.
Yeah, Kimmy made that comment, and then you and I were like, we thought that was the whole intent.
I knew what she said was actually true and everything, but it still baffles me that she didn't draw that bloody conclusion.
And you probably knew that afterwards.
At least...
Oh my god, stormtroopers are Nazis?
Radical concept.
Gosh.
It's not like they also used death imagery and stuff along those lines, skulls and other shit, which is basically the frickin' Dark Mark itself, which is the titular thing of the chapter itself. We also made a quick comment about Harry being such a pure soul that he did not understand why at all. I have to admit, this is definitely another one of Arthur's at his best in terms of his movement throughout the chapter.
I have to admit that I think that this is another thing that was Dumbledore / Rowling was horribly lacking in teaching Harry anything about the wizard who killed his family.
Yeah.
Literally anything.
Because, I feel
he had a bunch of followers who were called something. They had a symbol they rallied behind.
Yeah.
Honestly, this feels kind of like a failing on a lot of people's parts. I feel like Hagrid probably should have explained a lot more of this stuff.
Don't leave this to Hagrid!
Hagrid's the one who had to tell him about Voldemort to begin with.
Only because Harry pressured him.
Yeah, he wasn't going to tell him shit.
I know, but you're in that conversation and everything, and you have just interacted with the person most brutally affected by this, and you don't go into more detail, or at least talk to somebody to help with this if you're not feeling qualified.
Or be like, hey, heads up, we just had this conversation with Harry, and obviously we only touched the tip of the iceberg. He's going to need a lot of follow-through.
I mean, granted, I think Dumbledore the plot would have been, I mean, at least this is how the character was written. Dumbledore would have purposely kept Harry in the dark about as much of it as possible, because he doesn't want him getting in touch with his inner dark side. I don't know.
Yeah, but those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
And as a teacher, you'd think,
And it's even if you didn't want him to be prejudiced against certain wizard families, just in case maybe they were good guys, don't give any names.
But also by this point. Okay, I thought you were making a reference to, being prejudiced against, Muggleborns or whatever.
Oh,
but no, you're talking about, the Malfoys, all of them.
Yeah.
You don't have to say names unless you're showing him Azkaban prison list.
Honestly, though, it does seem kind of like a shortcoming on somebody's head needs to roll for this.
Because they know shit.
I also feel like this should be, an orientation class. Hey, you're a Muggleborn. You're an orphan, you're whatever, you've not grown up at all in the wizarding family. Here is a rundown of the things that you're gonna...
They have a history of magic class, but they need a modern times history magic class.
An orientation.
To be honest, that might be part of the reason, is because they haven't gotten rid of the ghost that's in charge of it, who's talking about Goblin. It doesn't feel like it's the history of magic half the time. It feels like just the history of Goblin rebellions with Professor Binns. It feels like history of magic doesn't feel like it's actually...
That tracks. A lot of history teachers are very I'm going to teach this one thing that I'm super interested in, and then fuck everything else.
But I also remember distinct periods of history class that I failed horribly, and it was just notes, droning notes about Charlemagne or some stupid shit that happened in the 1500s that nobody cares about that much.
Here's the thing, though, is
So
that
that tracks.
in the American education system, we learn about European history up until we get to America, and then it's just American history, unless the class is specifically designed to do like a world history thing or something, in which it's even more vague about everything.
I was gonna say, like, I remember for history class, it was 90% of it is focused on American history, and then there's one class, like, 1 year in high school, we had world history.
Yeah, I don't remember. I failed history.
Honestly, I loved history as a kid and everything, and I still do. But the entire history system for our education is basically just American propaganda. We barely touch on any of the bad things that we did. I think I remember a paragraph of the Trail of Tears and a couple of paragraphs maybe on the Vietnam and North Korean wars and stuff along those lines. If it's not about American exceptionalism, it's basically just barely touched on per chapter book.
Probably. I also, the way we teach history in our classes is just bad.
I mean,
that's why I failed them.
To be perfectly honest, though, you kind of have to have a general overview and everything for history, because you can go into weeds. Like, you could spend years on a single subject, basically, and barely touch the rest.
I mean,
like, you know,
it's one of those things that, like, so many world events, like, the way that they teach it is they separate the world events. So you forget that, like, what was it? It's MLK was alive at the same time as Anne Frank.
Yeah. Or, like, Cleopatra.
Has closer to modern times than the creation of the actual pyramids.
Yeah. And then there was something about, like, you could, theoretically, at a certain point in history, you could have a samurai, a pirate, and
a cowboy
at the same time. Like,
and a Victorian.
Yeah.
All at the same time because of how closely they interlapped.
Oh yeah.
But they teach it in, like, just such separated separation that, like. But we need to get back to Harry Potter. We of course get Hermione's beginnings of, wow, the house elf system seems super fucked up when they start punishing Winky.
The fact that that's barely touched on for the rest of the series when it's such a major plot point for this book and everything is still, like...
disappointing?
Yeah. It's really wild. I'm glad Ron starts to, like, come around to Hermione's philosophy on it and everything, and going back to Arthur. Arthur openly agrees with Hermione upon the actual issue itself, so it's pretty obvious that not only is the Weasley family, like, you know, patriarch? Yes. Is not only, like, a damn good person and stuff along those lines, he does understand the injustices of his own world, even, like, he's not blind to it.
That does bring up a good... I just had this random thought, and it could be totally stupid. But, like, think about it. The Weasleys are poor. They're a pureblood wizarding family. They're poor. They don't have a house elf. Every other pureblood family we interact with that we know is well off has a house elf. So it could be totally unrelated.
It could also just be because they're the poorer branch of the family that the house elf could be following a particular part of the bloodline.
To be fair...
I mean, look at the Blacks and Creature.
Yeah.
It's not in the actual books themselves, but I do believe that Molly and Arthur got married without the consent of Molly's side of the family to a degree. So that could have...
They didn't have a blessing.
Yeah, they didn't have a blessing on that side of the family.
Yeah.
Like, it does kind of feel like they are a bit of a black sheep and a bit to, like, the rest of the pure blood wizarding, but it does make me wonder about, like, like, Arthur's, you know, side of the family and everything and the whole thing. But I think Molly's brothers, she had two brothers that were twins, did fight alongside the Order of the Phoenix. So even if they didn't necessarily approve of Molly's relationship with Arthur, the family itself is still willing to not only fight but die for the right reasons in a sense. Which, kind of tragic that history almost partially repeats itself on that department.
But we'll get to that later. We also get the wonderful spell of, look, we can see what spells a wand has cast before. Now, too bad that'll never come in handy ever again during a trial.
Honest,
like,
Well,
exactly
what do you mean?
one book. Well, no.
They've never used that spell ever again.
Well, yeah, but at the same
closest
time,
we get to is at the end of this book.
But
yeah,
no,
but
I
why
think
would
what
it be
he's-
useful during the trial?
Because it shows you the
Any kind of
spell,
trial.
last spell that the wand has made, so it would only be really useful if
Okay, yeah.
not by the court, but by the police.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
But,
And then-
it's just never brought up again.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, I was like, no, like, Harry using Expecto, like, the Patronus charm isn't in question. It's the fact that he used it and under what circumstances was the concern for the court and originally.
For book 5.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, like, that wasn't in art, that wasn't in, contest,
Yeah.
basically.
If there were no muggles, it would have been like, well, now you're a minor doing magic outside of school. But
But you did it in front of a muggle who knows that magic is real.
who's my cousin who lives with me.
This is really, to be honest, that whole
Anyway.
thing is crooked to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Back to this book. We get Amos Diggory multiple times accusing Harry of doing like, Harry Potter, the
oh my
Dark
God.
Mark?
Honestly, Amos is just, like, swinging and missing in almost every direction, except for the fact that, like, the one person I feel like he really wanted to go after is, like, the one person who had more authority than him, and so obviously he's a little brown-noser. I have very low opinions of Amos Diggory,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
shocked that Cedric turned out as great as he ended up being,
That has to be his mother.
You made that comment we were listening going through.
That's
Though-
why I made it again.
I can't help but wonder, why the hell Harry didn't notice that his wand was missing sooner? I'm going to be honest with you, if I was a wizard, every night before, it'd be like my phone.
You'd have it strapped to your arm.
Why don't they have something like that?
Or a holster.
Or a holster.
Cowboy style.
I mean, they literally talk later about the dangers of having it in your pocket.
Blown off your butt.
I love that.
You know
love
what
that
I
Tonks
need?
makes a comment. How many people have you actually seen that happen to and everything? And I don't think Mad Eye has an answer to that
The best
question.
thing that you need for your wand is a Wiimote strap.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody casts Expelliarmus. Then you just have to get your wand back
But
in
you
your
know
hand.
what? You know what? Think about it. I just had a thought. All of the older wizards are typically out in robes. What do they have on those robes?
Deep pocket.
Giant deep pockets that they put their wand in, or a pocket inside their sleeve.
A lot of fan fiction
Look, man,
writers.
we give Lucius a lot of shit, but like a cane wand, pretty smart.
Pretty smart.
He still gets his face punched in by Sirius, which is honestly my favorite part of that movie.
Not.
I mean,
No denying that, but like cane wand, man, pretty smart. Pretty
honestly,
classy.
Also, looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
the whole
cane swords. Cane swords.
he accidentally hooks the Daniel Radcliffe and like the behind the scenes stuff and everything with it. That is
didn't
wild.
realize
That
that
that you're free. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's my inner shonen fan and stuff along those lines. It's just sort of like you're missing so many cool opportunities for combat with this and everything,
Yep.
and you're basically. But I do have to admit though, like that is such a wild thread of possibilities and stuff that. I do like the fact that, like, going back to this topic of Amos and everything, I love how Arthur is just, like, shouting at Diggory, like, what, that,
Look who you're talking
to.
to!
Like, I feel like Arthur is, like, the only sane man in the ministry and everything, and he's surrounded by idiots.
Yeah. Wow. Also, no, they're all idiots because there's how many adult wizards? It says like 20. And every single one of them, without pausing to think, just cast Stupefy, which we find out in book 6.
McGonagall took 3 stoners to the
3
chest and
or
ended up
5?
in St. Mungo's.
And Pomfrey was like, I'm surprised they didn't kill her.
They would have killed these kids.
They would have murdered these kids. Now,
Oh my god, they murdered Harry Potter.
now,
Jesus.
now we're not having
Voldemort
a
would like to know your location.
Now we're not having a trial because someone put up the dark mark over this.
We're
We're
having-
having a trial because you killed 3 underage
Oh, look.
wizards.
Molly would be
Cops
on
using
a
excessive
hunt.
force.
Oh my
Molly
gosh.
Molly's going full John Wick. Every single person except for her husband in that location is
Well, because
dead.
Arthur and Amos weren't even there. Arthur wasn't. Arthur showed up. He said, "What do you think you're doing?"
That's my kid. And his
Arthur
friends.
would have killed him. There would have been multiple dead bodies
He
there.
would have come
everything.
home just blood streaked. Molly,
We need to run.
I have bad news. She'd be like, what happened? I'm going to tell you on the way. You don't need to worry. It's all done. It's sorted. Bill and Charlie just come in. Pack your bags, Mom. Dad's scary. We gotta go.
Time to go.
But, like, come on. Thank God for Harry's quick intuition of just, like, not even pausing. Just
Like,
duck. Bam. Literally, he just...
It's them seeker reflexes.
Them secret reflexes
Harry-
just saved their asses.
Harry has got one thing, and it's survival instincts, and that kid knows when to fucking die. And everybody else is smart enough to realize if Harry says to do something in the middle of a crisis,
You do it.
Harry having a cool head and a freaking fast reflexes. You know, say what you want about the Dursleys and everything. With all the crap they did to Harry, they made a survivor. Very much against their will, but they made a survivor.
I mean, yeah, I think Arthur thought they killed them because he strode over to them after yelling stop, looking terrified, and then he was like, Ron, Harry, Hermione, like shaky. He's like reassuring himself, like, okay, they're all there. And like listening to it like Hermione, she was just kind of like, over there, someone was behind the trees, they shouted, incantation, and like she's shaky.
Oh,
but
they made an incantation, did they?
You seem very well informed about that. It's
Like, it's not basic magic 101. Also, how the hell do they not know how the Dark Mark works? You need a...
Right?
Voldemort touches the mark to call people in. You're telling me that they couldn't have interrogated any of the countless people in that frickin' area. It would have cleared Winky, it would have cleared the Golden Trio. Nobody there had the Dark Mark on them, as far as they were aware. Also, how did nobody stumble across a fully grown adult under a frickin' invisibility cloak? That should have been the first thing they should have done, is dispersing...
Because Diggory says, the easiest conclusion is the answer. He saw Winky unconscious, and that's all he...
And
he's like,
Barty
that's
Crouch
it. That's
Jr.
the
was
person who
probably
did it.
behind Winky.
He
partially covered,
he
and
didn't
it's
search.
dark in the middle, in the heart of the woods, so
And
he
he
probably
didn't
didn't
search.
see.
He saw Winky, said that's the culprit, done.
But
because he literally was like, Harry did it. It's his one. He did it.
I could have sworn multiple wizards went to go look, though.
No.
It was just Diggory.
Yeah, just Diggory.
Oh, are you kidding me? Nobody else went hunting.
No, except for
The
when Barty
oh my
Crouch
God.
went. Because he knew what he was looking for.
Diggory went, came back with Winky, and then
Diggory, like,
Crouch went.
Found his son.
And he was gone for a few minutes, I think.
He found him almost immediately.
That's because he knew what he was looking for.
I know, but the fact that nobody checked for an invisibility spell or cloak whatsoever. I swear, Amos is an idiot, and every single other person in there is incompetent. I swear. It is no surprise to me that the Ministry falls later on in the series, because these guys are incompetent. Anyway, Kimmy sadly has to get going. She's got work and everything. We're sorry that we couldn't get into this sooner, and sorry for screwing up the recording.
It's more just because I have to go make sure Cameron's awake.
Fair enough.
So you can blame your husband.
To be perfectly fair, we can blame him for a lot of things.
They
Don't forget your yarn.
She got that.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she already got it.
Okay, good to know.
It sounds like, okay, so it's not specified, but it does make it sound like Crouch was gone for a couple of minutes. So you can almost infer that he went to the spot where they found Winky, walked further, found his son, and then, like, fixed the invisibility cloak.
Wouldn't surprise me.
To make sure that no one was finding it.
It's weird, though, that even during the 90s, forensic stuff was already kind of being developed and everything. And the fact that nobody took the time to dust for fingerprints on Harry's wand. Nobody, like...
They don't have that in the wizarding community.
I know, but this is, like... There has to be people who popped into the wizarding world and stuff
There really should
while
be,
out of
like,
this...
that priority incantatum spell should really be like, okay, here, you hold your spell, or you hold your wand, I'll perform this spell, and if it'll tell me the spell that this wand casts last, and it'll come out this color if you cast it, and this other color if you didn't cast it.
Honestly, we should definitely be in charge of the Auror office, to be perfectly honest. The fact that there isn't any person who's part of the Auror team actually in charge. Because Cedric's in charge of the animal stuff, right? Like the magical creatures and everything.
Cedric.
And yet... Sorry,
no.
Amos.
Amos is in charge of
You know, like
something about
like,
the magical creatures.
yeah. So him being in charge, like dealing with Winky, kind of makes some semblance of sense in universe. But you'd think they would have brought in a or something along those lines. Somebody with some bloody freaking experience dealing with wizard on
and control of magical creatures.
Yeah, he should not be the person in charge of this, and neither should Crouch, to be honest, considering he's in charge of magical cooperation and stuff. There is nobody here that's in charge of security. Like, where, like, what the heck is what is going on in this moment?
There should be, because
this should be delegation.
Literally, Arthur was like, "I'm glad I'm not on duty tonight."
Clearly, somebody was asleep at the wheel, though.
Several.
All I can think to myself out of this entire situation is such a clusterfudge that I'm gonna be honest with you. Rita Skeeter basically has like every reason in the universe to be like breaking this entire thing under the coals.
Yeah, where's Rita?
The problem being is she's like really bad at her freaking job in general and everything, and obviously prone to embellishing like of the highest caliber. But I kind of get it though when it comes to this.
I don't know. I guess one of the things about reading the story versus listening to it is like you pick up all of the exclamation points, exclamation points, not explaining, and you really see that Amos is just being a dick. Like instead of it just sounding like he's being stern, you were found with a wand in your hand. I read this in my head with you were found with a wand in your hand, like stern, angry, and I'm like, you're interrogating a suspect. This is how you're talking.
Or a witness. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just sort of like, this guy is not qualified. This is not his job to be investigating a crime scene of any kind and everything. And yet, here he is being allowed to just do whatever he wants, more or less.
Yeah.
Until, of course, somebody else who's technically higher ranking than him basically puts him down. And I'm guessing that at the very least, Arthur is an equal, because he doesn't, like, push back too hard against Arthur either, to be honest. Though they're talking to each other in terms of earlier on, and not earlier on, later on and stuff. So it's like, I feel like he knows better
Arthur's
than.
Like, Amos, think of who you're talking to. It's Harry Potter. And Amos is like, oh yeah, sorry, no, I got carried away. But then, like, literally the next page, Crouch looks at him and he goes, you have now come very close to accusing the two people in this clearing that are the least likely to conjure that mark. Harry Potter and myself. Crouch, you were the one that was implying that Harry, Hermione, or Ron had something to do with the dark mark. You're not the only one.
To be fair, he might not have necessarily recognized the three of them in the dark. Which, to be honest, this entire place should have been lit up like a bloody Christmas tree, basically.
Yeah, but I feel like once they had apparated in, seen Harry, and then, like, you know, even after Arthur was like, stop! And they were like, oh shit, that's Harry. That's Harry fucking Potter.
There's, like, so many little things about this entire thing where we could just nitpick it to hell and high water and everything.
Like, on one hand, I'm glad that Harry does not have the international just stardom that they're like, oh, he's famous, he can't do anything wrong. But on the other hand, can we take Harry at his word because he's famous?
To be perfectly honest,
more at his word?
This is kind of a wild reality when you start thinking about it and stuff, where the fantasy novel is more like unrealistic in a sense where it shouldn't be, you know?
Yeah.
But we could continue to badger this on, though. I have to admit, though, in terms of like the overall story structure, how relevant this chapter and this whole different exchange and everything is insane in terms of its setup. Barty Crouch, like, Senior being so integral to the plot of this entire mystery and stuff along those lines. And everything is basically put into place right here. Like, going back and rereading this book especially and stuff, it's like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, feel all the puzzle pieces kind of like, starting to slide into position.
After knowing how it's supposed to look and everything at the end of it. It's honestly one of the better books in terms of over the course of the entire series. I have to admit, though, when they do end up popping back in and reuniting with the rest of the Weasley family and everything, I'm kind of surprised that Bill and Charlie are not a little bit like, considering they eventually join the Order and everything themselves, it is kind of wild to me that they're not a little bit more like outside standing guard or something along those lines. I'm gonna be honest, if I was either of them, especially if I was Bill, I would have been standing out front with my wand out and everything, just sort of like anybody gets close to this place. Yeah, anybody gets close to this and stuff along those lines, freaking hexing them, period. End of story sort of thing.
Yeah.
Especially if I had my baby sister in there, you know what I mean? But I do have to admit, though, it is actually kind of interesting that the whole thing with Percy basically starts up in here, where he starts falling out of line with the rest of the family. And it starts with Hermione, of all people, having the disagreement with.
It really shows that Percy is really out of touch with reality.
It's wild that his father is more empathetic and more understanding of the universe and stuff in terms of what's right and what's wrong and what's lawful and what's not lawful, not necessarily all coinciding with each other properly in a sense. It's kind of weird. I do kind of think that maybe Molly was a little too encouraging of his rule-following behavior, especially with the twins running around. So it is kind of one of those things where it's just sort of like, I don't want to blame her, but her encouraging this
Bill
mindset.
And Charlie in the middle, Percy at one end, and then Fred and George at the other, and then you just gotta hope and pray that you got Ron and Ginny back in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. Though, to be honest, everyone in the family, with the exception of Percy, is pretty damn good all the way through. And Percy eventually rejoins the fold towards the end of the story as well, anyway. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a small blemish on, a stellar record of raising amazing kids.
But because you think about it, and it's like the boys, Fred and George, the twins, are pranksters. But typically, they don't usually go out of their way to intentionally cause harm. They're not
outwardly
malicious. Except for when it comes to,
Year 5.
With Umbridge. And then they're just like, fuck this bitch.
Well, they also kind of do a couple other things that almost get another student killed, basically. But at that point,
they're just like, well, if we're gonna get expelled, might as well go out with a bang.
To be perfectly honest, yeah. I always kind of viewed Fred and George similarly to how I think the Marauders were kind of viewed, in a sense. That they will mess with people, they will bully people and everything. But the Marauders were a lot more like, oh, you're a Nazi youth, in a sense, and stuff along those lines. You're free game as far as we're concerned. Which is why I'm not really that beat up about them bullying Snape. I mean, essay's bad. Don't get me wrong. That was a low freaking blow in terms of, James making a comment about, serious, Snape's underwear, basically, and everything. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a little difficult considering to be sympathetic towards Snape. You can't really be mad at the
bullies who are bullying the bullies.
You can't really be mad at... You can't really feel... I don't feel too much sympathy for Snape, considering he went on to go join the Death Eater cult, called his best friend of God knows how many years a slur right to her face and stuff along those lines.
Hated this man so much he hated his kid.
Treated every kid that ever passed through there that wasn't Slytherin like absolute shit. And of course, before he turned back to being the good side and everything, he had to be up there in terms of the ranks and stuff along those lines, which means he either A, helped kill people, B, ordered people to get killed, and also was almost indirectly responsible for the death of, Lily herself and everything. And only started to care when her life was in danger and nobody else's.
Fuck everybody else.
Honestly,
we don't care about everybody else.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy towards, Snape, and I'm also a very big James apologist and stuff and everything else. You can be the biggest twat in the universe and everything, but if you're punching Nazis as your form of entertainment and everything, I'm not losing any sleep over being friends with you.
I'll be like, that's my kind of friend.
Fair point. Anyway, since...
Listen, I've already made comments along the lines of that. I don't want to say specifically, but to the point of, let's say you punch Nazis. son, daughter, your dad's standing up for what's right.
Fair enough.
The world may
Anyway.
think he's in trouble, but he's doing what's right.
But I don't really think there's anything else we can really add on to
Not
on this
really.
chapter. Overall, though, it's extremely important over the course of the entire book. I kind of wish Kimmy was able to like hang back and continue on and everything. We might, during the next chapter reading and everything, have Kim talk to Kimmy a little bit about anything that she didn't get to say about this chapter. So don't be too surprised if the next one has a little bit more on this one. But for right now, I think we'll kind of wrap things up. We'll have.
Well, if she comes over on Sunday before we do the next if it's on a day other than the podcast that we do, we can always get her thoughts on the rest of this chapter, and then just kind of either upload it as a separate one or attach it to it.
We could do a part 2 or something along those
Yeah.
lines. Give her more of a, of the floor, as it
Yeah.
were. Who knows? She might bring up something else that we may have thought,
Yeah.
and we could have a whole extra conversation on this.
Yep.
But if you want to see her work, it's Luna Creations.
Luna's Creation Corner
Yeah.
for all of her crochet. She's on, I think, all of the socials.
Pretty much. And then, of course, you've got me, Cole Sanders, on Twitch and stuff. I usually play... I stream primarily on Mondays and Wednesdays and stuff, but I have been branching out a little bit more towards Thursdays on occasion, to be perfectly honest. Especially if I accidentally miss one of my primary days.
And then you can find me on YouTube for all of my cross-stitch and crafty projects under Brandywine Stitches. And then the rest of the socials, I'm under Hockeytown Candle Co. for all of my soy candle things.
Yep. So, comment, hit the big red subscribe button and everything if you want to hear more of our rambling conversations and topics on Harry Potter. But until next time, keep your wands at the ready, and see you next week. Hopefully.
Bye!
Bye.